On the broadcast tonight, making the case for a strike in Syria. Late word of what the White House is telling Congress. And tonight, a report from inside Damascus, where they are bracing for an attack. Good evening. I'm Lester Holt in for Brian. The U.S. tonight appears to have just lost a key ally as it tries to build consensus for a punishing military attack on Syria. There's late word from London that Britain's parliament has voted tonight against supporting an attack. But even as efforts towards an international consensus unravel, the White House is still pressing its case here at home for a military strike. In a conference call this evening, members of the president's national security team are briefing congressional leaders on what the White House believes was the Syrian government's role in a deadly nerve gas attack, and also laying out the parameters for a U.S. military response with or without international partners. We have reports from Washington as well as inside Damascus tonight. Andrea Mitchell starts us off from Washington. Andrea, good evening.
Good evening, Lester. Tonight, the president is losing momentum for quick action against Syria and facing the very real prospect that if he does act within days, he may be doing it alone, something the White House said today it is willing to do. UN inspectors were still collecting evidence today of last week's attack and now plan to leave Syria Saturday. Their mandate is only whether a chemical attack took place, not who did it. British jets landed in Cyprus, poised to take part in an American-led strike. The British government said today an intervention would be legal on humanitarian grounds, but the jets are grounded for now. Hands off Syria! That's because the public is deeply opposed, and today the Prime Minister's own party rebelled against using force. Looming over today's debate, the Iraq intelligence failures a decade ago.
The well of public opinion was well and truly poisoned by the Iraq episode, and we need to understand the public skepticism.
We must consider, given where we've been before in this House, that our intelligence as it stands might just be wrong, because it was before.
Today, the British government's intelligence assessment said it is highly likely that the regime was responsible for the chemical attack, but no smoking gun. And tonight, the government even lost a symbolic vote.
The noes to the left, 285.
The White House is also on the defensive. Members of both parties say it has a legal obligation to provide more classified intelligence to Congress than tonight's telephone briefing.
I think it's very important, I think both for legal reasons and for doing the right thing by getting buy-in from the Congress, that the administration come up, talk to a broader a set of members to get buy-in to the program.
Today, Syria's President Assad appeared on state TV saying Syria will defend itself in the face of any aggression. And Russia said it's moving warships to the Mediterranean. Again today, Russia said it would block any UN vote approving the use of force. Some experts say the president still needs to explain the mission.
I think the notion that you can simply launch a few Tomahawk missiles, even a couple of hundred, and then walk away and say we've made our point, I don't think that's realistic. I think it sets in motion other dynamics with the Russian support for Syria, with Iran support for Syria, with Hezbollah support, etc.
Critics say the president has still not explained his rationale beyond wanting to punish Syria for using chemicals and deter the regime from doing it again. The critics say he has yet to provide the legal rationale for military action. Lester?
All right, Andrea, as we mentioned at the top of the program, the White House tonight is briefing top members of Congress about how it will justify a strike on the Assad regime. Our chief White House correspondent, Chuck Todd, joins us now with the latest on that. Chuck, what are you hearing?
Well, I can tell you this, Lester. The White House has spent almost all day today trying to calm down jittery members of Congress. The president personally himself called Speaker John Boehner and Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. Tonight, about 20 key members of Congress are getting briefed on all aspects of the situation by the president's closest advisors, including Susan Rice, Secretaries Kerry and Hagel, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Vice Chair of the Joint Chiefs. What the White House hopes the briefing tonight will ratchet back the congressional public skepticism about the president's military plans. The White House believes the case against Assad is clear-cut, and here's why. NBC News has learned one of the key pieces of evidence that the U.S. has to prove Assad's regime was behind the chemical attack is an intercepted communication that says Assad's brother, a commander of the Syrian Republican Guard, personally ordered the attack. That's why, Lester, the president is so confident about where he stands on this.
All right, Chuck Todd, thanks. Let's get the read from Syria on all this. In and around the city of Damascus, the people who live there faced with the decision of whether to leave or hunker down ahead of any possible strike on any number of potential targets by the U.S. Tonight, Bill Neely has made his way inside Damascus to get a first-hand look at what's happening on the ground there.
Well, there's no question there is anxiety, apprehension about what missiles might rain down on this city and when. And yet, by its standards, it's been a fairly normal day in Damascus. The traffic is still flowing, shops have been open, and there is shelling in the suburbs. In fact, just a few seconds ago, there was a boom. We saw shelling plumes of smoke in Mwadamia, which was the suburb hit by chemical weapons last week. But there is anxiety here, bigger queues at the border, people who've endured the conflict here for 2 years finally leaving. There is fear that any attack on the army sites might hit chemical weapons stockpiles and send gases across this city. President Assad himself defiant today, saying Syria will defend itself. There's also a little bit of worry that the inspectors are leaving 1 day early. Echoes of Baghdad 10 years ago when the inspectors got a tip-off and left hastily, and a few hours later the airstrikes started. One government official today said to me, "We are expecting an attack. We know it's going to come. We just don't know when." Back to you, Lester.